Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to all our friends of sport. My name is Ra'al Odan. I am 9 years old from the beautiful Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
It is fantastic to see all our guests joining from across the 5 continents. Thank you for joining us. My name is Rakan Lodan. I'm 9 years old, also from the Kingdom. Thank you so much for joining us for the UTS World Virtual Youth Festival 2021 session, where today we are facing the new normal due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sports internationally has been affected. All events postponed or cancelled. Even the Tokyo 2020 Games suffered a postponement and made an exceptional recovery this year.
With the disruption to major sporting events, the pandemic affected everyone. Gyms and sport facilities had to close their doors for many months at a time, and the World Health Organization stepped in to give us all advice on how to be safe and keep our communities safe.
But the reality is sport suffered big time. Some organizations such as United Through Sports got innovative and creative, enabling them to emerge stronger than ever. And this event, the UTS World Virtual Youth Festival, is the testament of growth through crisis. Together we are finding new ways forward, but this doesn't come without challenges. Today we will hear from the experts.
Today we are joined by representatives from the International Olympic Committee, the International Paralympic Committee, the Special Olympics, and Mahts Academy.
But before we dive into this topic, we are blessed. I am honored to meet a man who has contributed to changing the world. All the way from South Korea, this gentleman served as the 8th Secretary General for the United Nations. At age 18, he won a competition which flew him to USA to meet with John F. Kennedy. Today, he has the position as the IOC Ethics Commission Chair and co-founded a Center for Global Persons. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please welcome His Excellency Mr. Ban Ki-moon, who will set the scene for this session.
My dear sporting colleagues and sporting friends from around the world, it gives me immense pleasure to be the scene setter for the 3rd conference session in the new normal moving forward in sporting challenges. It has been an incredibly challenging year, 2020 and 2021. During these unpredictable times in which many lives have been lost, social distancing and lockdowns became a way of life, the pandemic has also led to the cancellation of many major sporting events. For the first time in modern history, the Olympic and Paralympic Games have been postponed. We also have seen solidarity, determination, and flexibility of the world sports community. We must give our admiration to the Olympic community, the IOC and IPC for putting the athletes and heart of all their actions at the spectacular Tokyo 2020 Games. Cooperation is the key to success, and working together can drive positive change, not only in sport, but in all walks of life. We understand that there are still many challenges ahead, but no doubt sports can embrace these challenges. All the Olympic organizations have shown remarkable resilience in the face of adversity during this pandemic. Hence, I am very honored to be the one to pass over the floor to our friends from the IOC, SOI, IPC, and the government and representatives of the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I'm looking forward to listening to these remarkable sporting administrators. Thank you.
What a way to open a session. Thank you, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. Our respect and admiration for all you contributed towards the world. As you once said, there is no plan B because there is no planet B. And today, as you mentioned, we will focus on the here and now.
Joining us, we have IOC Sport Director Kit McConnell and Louis Lauria, Special Olympics Global Chief of Games and Competitions, Colleen Wren, Chief Paralympics Games Officer, and Mr. Abdullah Hamad, Director General, Leader Development Institute and President of Mahad Academy.
Colleen Wren has more than 20 years of experience in the IPC with planning and delivery of major events, including her involvement in the 2010, 2012, and 2014 Olympic and Paralympic Games, as well as the 2019 Pan American and Para-Pan American Games. The Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games clearly needed a different approach due to the global pandemic. What, in your opinion, were the most vital lessons learned from hosting the Tokyo 2020 Games and looking to the future of international sport events?
The Tokyo 2020 Games demonstrated that it is possible to host major events, even while the world continues to grapple with the COVID-19 pandemic. In order to successfully deliver, it was key to have very strong and very collaborative relationships with all of the parties involved: the IOC, Tokyo 2020, the government of Japan, Tokyo Metropolitan Government, and all the local authorities involved. It was also important to have a program of countermeasures that were based on the latest science and developed jointly by medical experts from around the world in order to keep participants and the people of Japan safe. Equally important was the fact that all the stakeholders who came to the Games had a commitment to abide by these measures in order to protect themselves and to protect others. Each of these learnings showcases that partnership and cooperation allow us to deliver very complex projects and solve very difficult challenges successfully.
Honestly, I can only imagine what it felt like to maneuver around the ever-changing regulations, protocol, and the pressure to ensure safety above all. Well, the IOC and IPC, together with the Tokyo Organizing Committee, succeeded in keeping safety as the top priority and still hosting a phenomenal event and lifting the spirit of the world.
Kit, you have worked at the IOC for over 8 years as sports director and have extensive expertise in coordinating and supporting the international sports community. With everything the IOC faced, what unique success do you think the adapted Tokyo 2020 achieved?
So it's just over 3 months since we saw the end of ultimately a hugely successful and perhaps as importantly safe Olympic Games in Tokyo. In that time, we've had the chance to reflect a little bit, and I think there's 3 things that really come to mind about the success and the safety of those games and the lessons we can take forward to Beijing, which equally is now just 3 months away. The first is the development of very clear frameworks of running a safe games. Of course, we had a huge amount of experience here with the international federations who have been running safe, secure events for the 18 months prior to the games we had in Tokyo. We had huge experience from the athletes themselves. But of course, the Japanese authorities played an incredible role in forming that framework of us delivering a very safe games in Tokyo. So the framework of operating an Olympic Games in a COVID-adapted environment with the playbooks, with all of the regulations in place around that, and the adherence, the respect of those rules and regulations by everyone involved, was one of the key lessons from Tokyo. We take that forward to Beijing, obviously adapting it into the Chinese environment with the rules and regulations of the host country there, like for all of the federation events outside the games, but the creation of very clear rules and regulations, communicating those early, communicating what it meant to comply not only with the letter but the spirit of those regulations was a really important fact that we built into the playbooks and have already taken forward to China. The second was the focus on sport and on the athletes. And every step of the way, yes, we had to make adaptations to the operations of the games, but at every step of the way, we also kept in mind what the games were about, and that was delivering the venues and the fields of play for the world's greatest sports people to deliver the performances of their life. And between the Japanese authorities, between the IOC, between the international federations, the NOCs, everyone involved, the focus remained on sport and on the athletes every step of the way. And that's ultimately what the world saw and the world celebrated. And the final point comes back not only to Tokyo, but to everything we do in life. And that's about communication and engagement. And there, every step of the way, whether we knew every detail, whether we knew every piece of available information, we really just tried to keep everyone involved. From my side as the sport director, we tried to keep the international federation and the athlete community involved and informed every single step of the way, telling them what we were thinking, what decisions were coming up, asking for their feedback, asking for their input, and making sure they knew exactly where we were in the planning of those games and what it meant for them, and hearing their voice every step of the way. So the third point from our side would be about communication and a very open engagement with everyone every single step of the way.
We all witnessed the success of the games from our homes. Thank you for giving us hope and reminding us that together we can find ways forward.
Hi Louis, so cool to be introducing you. You lead the global development of sports for the Special Olympics and manage the Special Olympics World Games. That makes you special yourself. For those that didn't know, you also worked at the IOC and IPC with social distancing in sport. Many athletes have experienced changes and the need to adapt. What do you feel has changed in the landscape of sports during the pandemic for the Special Olympics, and how has it impacted athletes?
Special Olympics athletes across the world, 6 million athletes in 170 countries, have been profoundly impacted by the pandemic. Feelings of isolation, not being connected, not being with your teammates and your unified partners and your coaches have all placed a great deal of strain and stress amongst our athletes. What we found was that Special Olympics programs from Italy to Canada to Australia had started virtual competitions and virtual ways to stay engaged. These largely centered around fitness and other sports skills activities that athletes are able to do. And we brought the community back together through these virtual activities, be it basketball or fitness activities and other sports. We also found that programs in different countries were able to compete against each other. Athletes from Minnesota were able to compete against athletes from Africa due to the virtual activities and skills competitions. It has been a challenging period. The athletes have showed their determination and their commitment to sport by staying active, by staying connected, and by helping each other through this pandemic.
Honestly, it does sound like it has been a tough time to navigate this pandemic and ensure the athletes are not missing out. Thank you for sharing your views with us, and it's great to know events were still happening even if virtually. The next World Games Berlin will be held in 2022, and we have no doubt it will be amazing.
Joining us from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is a man who works with utmost dedication to ensure the development of sports and youth. He is a member of the Special Olympics Board of Directors and works within the Ministry of Sports. Last year, the long-awaited Mahd Sport Academy was unveiled, a project focusing on the discovery and development of local Saudi talent within and outside the nation. With both individual and group sports included, both girls and boys from the ages of 6 to 12 are able to take part in the brand new developmental system. With your first-hand experience, what do you feel are the implications of COVID-19 on physical activity and the future of sport events?
The implication could seem very high due to many people staying at home most of the time to stay safe. Still, in reality, it is a great chance for everyone to self-reflect on their health and physical activity, as many people were doing home exercises and staying active. Moreover, as things opened up, people really appreciated the power of sport and sporting facilities to get back to playing the sport they love.
Thank you, Mr. Hamad. As you said, everyone from adults, children, and the elderly have all experienced restrictions with quarantines and lockdowns. Now more than ever, we need the support of you all to help us have opportunities to keep fit, healthy, and active.
With the epic launch of the Paralympic movement, We the 15, we see a massive collision of the international organizations uniting for the future to ensure lives of the world. 1.2 billion persons with disabilities, who represent 15% of the global population, are transformed for the better. Colleen, there are certainly added challenges for people with disabilities during this pandemic. How can the world of sport make a positive impact on their lives?
I think the pandemic has demonstrated the importance of sport in our lives. It helps us live healthier lives, it connects us with others, it inspires us, and it uplifts us. However, it's also shown the need for flexibility and the ability to adapt to overcome challenges. The successful delivery of competition and events around the world has shown that we can evolve our planning and operations quickly in the face of significant disruption. It's important that the knowledge and experience that we've gained is shared to benefit sport at all levels, and so as not to further exacerbate inequality. Moving forward, we must continue to work together to find new ways of doing things so we're well positioned to meet the next big challenge. When we cooperate and share best practices, we can continue to improve how we run events, how we connect the athletes with fans, how we grow individual sports, and all of that benefits sport as a whole.
Really interesting to hear your perspective, and thank you for sharing with us. International sport community, you heard it from Colleen. There is a lot yet to be done. Let's get going.
The International Olympic Committee is regarded as the world's most prestigious sport organization. No doubt you have a lifetime and beyond of experience and data to understand the functioning of sports around the world. What are the current challenges you see in the international sport community, and how can they be addressed?
So sport, like every part of society, has been massively impacted by COVID over the last 18 months. I think sport has probably an even greater role to play, an even more important role to play in society moving forward. First of all, we look at the health aspects that we know sport brings. On the physical side, we know the benefits of young people, people our age, older people, all engaging in sport for physical well-being. This also has a big role to play in the overall health of society, and that health of society, of course, is a greater focus than it's ever been. So on the physical side, I think sport has a great role to play in society moving forward. But one of the other things that has become very clear over the last 18 months is the very important mental health aspects of sport as well. We've seen a huge focus on this at the elite level with high-profile cases like Naomi Osaka, Simone Biles, and you name it, across just about every sport. The stigma of mental health has been well and truly removed from elite sport. But we also know that at a grassroots level, at any level of sport, the benefits of playing sport can really help with mental health as well. So for me, sport has an even greater role to play moving forward with those physical attributes we knew existed, but with an even greater awareness around the mental health benefits that sport can bring. On the other side, we've seen the divisions across society, within societies and between societies as a result of the impact of COVID. And here again, sport has an incredibly important role to play. Sport can bring together societies at a local level. Regardless of your beliefs, regardless of religion, belief of any kind, sport can unite people. And we've seen that throughout COVID, and even more so in the last few months as crowds have started to come back to certain events around the world. Equally, and we saw this from the Olympic Games in Tokyo, sport can bring different societies together. It unites people from different countries around one common positive thing, and that is sport. In Tokyo, we had 205 National Olympic Committees. We had the Refugee Olympic Team. We had people from every corner of the world watching incredible performance by athletes from their countries and others on the fields of play in Tokyo. And the world needed this more than ever, to come together, to celebrate something special, to celebrate something positive. So that unifying spirit of sport at a local level and a global level is going to be more important than ever as we come out of COVID.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. And the main point here is that there are many things the sport community can do, and there are resources of sport towards the future.
Amongst the havoc the pandemic has caused, Louis, we have seen some amazing initiatives online. Can you share with everyone what the Special Olympics have done to evolve during the pandemic to keep connected to the athletes and support their well-being?
I believe, unfortunately, that during the pandemic, public health in general has not improved from a fitness perspective. I think the inability to get out and to do team sports and to do other sports, indoor sports, has hampered people. Some people live in large cities where it's more challenging to get outside and to participate in fitness activities. I think people have tried, people have shifted to indoor activities and personal fitness, and perhaps doing stuff in your home versus going to a gym or other ways to stay engaged. But overall, I don't believe that the public has become fitter during the pandemic. I think we're seeing now a return to activities and a return to playing sport and getting back out there. That is contributing to people getting fitter and to trying to stay the course. There's also a mental health and a mental fitness component to it that's been challenging if people have faced isolation and not had the social elements that life brings. So it has been a difficult period during this pandemic.
We know it takes a team to make the dream happen, and the Special Olympics family is only growing. I watched the World Championship dance sport competition held recently on Facebook. It was amazing, so much talent.
Mr. Hamad, with your experience across different sports and organizations going through the COVID-19 pandemic, what will it take for the sport world to move forward better than ever before? What do you think is needed right now?
It will take a team effort to move sport forward in sport of Saudi Arabia to the top of the world. We need to have a better sport ecosystem that supports all stakeholders in sport to build a generation of champions for Saudi Arabia. That's why here at Mahd Academy, we have such a key role in the ecosystem by scouting and developing young athletes and helping them reach their potential to represent the country and win in the biggest international events.
Really interesting observations, and thanks for sharing with us all. We, the youth, hope the world will stabilize soon, as we have already missed so much valuable school time outdoors and with our friends.
Colleen, Mr. Abdullah shared his views on how the sports world can move forward and do better. From your perspective, what do you feel with your recent experience, especially right now?
People with disabilities have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic, which has amplified existing inequalities. People with disabilities are 15% of the world's population. That's more than 1 billion people. Yet the World Health Organization estimates that globally, only 10% of people have access to the assistive products, such as wheelchairs, that they need. Among the reasons cited for this gap is a lack of awareness, policies, and regulation, as well as fragmented and inaccessible facilities and services. The Paralympic Games and other parasport are a powerful platform to create change, both tangible changes like new programs and improved infrastructure, as well as intangible changes to attitudes and ideas. I often think of a quote in the documentary Rising Phoenix by Australian Ellie Cole. who just retired after swimming to her 17th medal in Tokyo. She said, "I want as many people in the world to see the Paralympics as possible, because if my parents had known about the Paralympics back when I was 3 years old, they would have had so much more hope in what people with disabilities can do." If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to watch Rising Phoenix, as it answers this question far better than I do.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. You raised some important points. Everyone can look at this event where over 100 organizations came together to give us kids an opportunity to keep active and keep going. For that, we are so grateful.
Now I must ask a burning question that I'm sure is on so many people's minds. Having managed to successfully deliver the Tokyo 2020 Games, from an IOC perspective, what are the implications of COVID-19 on physical activity and the future of sport events?
When we look at the future of sports events, of course, there's going to be a world before COVID and a world after COVID, and hopefully that world after COVID will come sooner than some of the predictions tell us. But when we look at the sport after COVID, I think there's two aspects I'd like to touch on. Number one is the grassroots level. And I talked earlier about the benefits that sport brings to individuals, to societies. There, I think we need to continue to focus on access to sport. We know it's becoming an increasing challenge to so many young people around the world, regardless of which country they live in, about how to access sport, how to actually participate in sport and get all the benefits from it. So we have to continue to focus not only as sports organizations, but with others that have a great impact, like governments, like education systems, like schools, like clubs, to make sure that the next generation of young people around the world can access sport, and it is a safe, secure, welcoming community and environment for them to practice sport in. So access to sport and an enjoyable, safe environment for them is absolutely key for me as we move into the post-corona world. The second part is how we adapt the elite level sports events themselves. And there we're still dealing with uncertainty over crowd numbers, rules and regulations, and everything else that we face as individuals on a daily basis, but equally as organizers of sport and sport events we face on a daily basis as well. Here, I think one of the keys is using the available technologies, engaging with people in different ways. We know that there's uncertainty over how many people can watch a sports event in a venue at this stage around the world. So let's engage with people outside the venue in different ways. Look beyond traditional broadcast operations. Look at ways that we can use social and digital media and the emerging technologies around virtual to create a really different experience, a more engaging experience for people around the world. It could be in the host city, it could be in the host country, it could be anywhere in the world, regardless of the time zone. We need to continue to connect with those people that love the sports we're involved in, but also reach out to new audiences. And here there are opportunities as well as challenges for us to use that technology and reach out to people in different ways. And this is not only a response to coronavirus, it's a response to changing technologies and a changing society. So let's seize that opportunity as much as we can.
Well, from what we saw in Tokyo, the Games are an excellent example of finding ways to adapt despite the global pandemic. With Paris 2024 coming up, we hope that this event can function with a live audience, with all the elements that live events that extra bit special.
So many people and youth around the world have experienced reduced well-being during the last few years. I myself have faced some challenging times, and without being connected to my friends and my hobbies, it would have been really difficult. What has Special Olympics done to evolve during the pandemic to keep connected to the athletes and support their well-being?
Special Olympics in our 7 regions across the world, 170 countries and the 6 million athletes, has supported the virtual activities that the programs have done. This is all best done on the local level, so a lot of it has been initiatives from our national programs that we've provided support. We've provided the transfer of knowledge and the sharing of materials from one program to another. We've helped facilitate skills and fitness competitions with programs that needed access to this. We provided coaching and fitness materials. We looked at it as a time when coaches could continue to get their certifications online, where fitness was something that people were able to continue online. So again, we convened global webinars where every 2 weeks there was a different topic. And we had, hundreds and hundreds of people attend these global webinars and learn more about the work that we're doing and try and keep a sense of community together. So, and in addition, we've continued to move forward with our planning for events, our bidding and other things that go with hosting events. And we've made progress. It's, there's going to be some legacy coming out of the pandemic related to how we do things virtually. And I think the virtual legacy is going to be a good one. We'll all get back to real sport. We'll all get back on the pitch or in the pool, but the virtual legacy will stay with us, and it will enable us to stay connected even when we're back in person, and it'll enable us to do more than we were able to do before. So this is one of the positives that'll come out of this pandemic.
I have to be honest. I know my parents think playing games is making me lazy, but it's where I can meet my friends, challenge them to games, and build games together as a team. The digital world supported those of us who are lucky enough to have access for it. For those that don't have resources and struggling, we know once the pandemic ends, for many around the world, they have nowhere else to go. So the world needs to be more compassionate and supportive.
I agree. The world needs to support those who need it the most, especially now. Mr. Abdullah, we have had to keep our social distances, and there has been social distancing in sports as no exception. Many athletes have experienced changes in their lifestyles and the urgent need to adapt. What have you seen that has changed in the landscape of sport during the pandemic?
Social distancing really made an impact in many sports, especially contact sports. But it's also helped create new and creative ways to train. In addition, it allowed new techniques to be discovered and new challenges to overcome. With things getting back to normal, now the landscape of sports has developed massively.
Interesting. I have managed to keep active at home with my siblings. With time off school, I have had my own home sport events. We haven't been able to join any sport event, let alone take part. Let's hope soon we will be able to enjoy sports fully once again.
Thank you to all our special guests, and a special thank you to His Excellency Ban Ki-moon. This is a moment I will never forget for the rest of my life. Friends, today this session looked at the reality faced by the international sports community. We have ways to go before we return to physical events without postponement or cancellation. But in the meantime, we will all do what we can with what we have, and together we will take steps forward, united for the future.
Thank you everyone for joining us. We hope this session gave you hope and reminded you to look after your health and well-being. See you soon for the next session of the UTS World Virtual Youth Festival 2021, right here from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the world.